Welcome, one and all. This is the Ancient Journey. On today's journey, the good father, Martin McNeill. But before we get started, don't forget, if you enjoy the video, please give us a like and a share and subscribe. And don't forget to turn on those notifications. And if there's a story out there that you'd like to see us turn into a video, drop it in the comments section down below. Now let's get started. "If anything happens to me, make sure it wasn't your dad," she said to her daughter as she handed her the medication. She was afraid of her husband giving her medication that she didn't really need. It had been a long, long road from when they first met, and many trials and many tribulations and many children later, and she was still standing. She wasn't about to give Martin McNeill such an easy way out. Milton and Helen Summers welcomed daughter Michele into the world in 1957 in Concord, California, an old mine town with views of the San Francisco Bay. Michele was a straight-A student, a cheerleader, the homecoming queen. She acted, played violin, and was even an exchange student in Switzerland for a time. She was an active member of the Church of Latter-day Saints, but what set her apart from most was her appearance. Michele was quite attractive. She won the Miss Concord competition in 1976 and did modeling throughout most of her life. So Michele was good at sticking it out, spending hours learning cheer routines, practicing violin, training for pageants, spending hours modeling. So she was no stranger to taking on a tough role. And when Michele met Martin McNeill at a church activity, she met her toughest role yet. Martin had been in the military at the young age of 17, but after 2 years was placed on disability for mental health reasons, and Michele would find out what those reasons were later. Michele and Martin eloped, and the two were married in 1978, and just 4 months into the marriage, Martin was in prison, serving a 6-month jail sentence for forgery, theft, and fraud. Martin had been caught forging checks. Martin is collecting VA benefits, and when he gets out of jail, he and Michele are still together. And soon Martin is ready to make something more of himself. So he enrolls at 2 medical schools and later the law school at Brigham Young University, even though he has to falsify his transcripts just to get in. But none of the schools catch on, so Martin is licensed as a surgeon in the state of California in 1984 and later in Utah in 1987. But he's still Martin after all, so Martin is caught for Medicaid fraud in 1990. And he's banned from billing Medicaid for the next 12 years. During this time, Martin graduates from BYU Law School, but continues to work at the BYU Health Center and never practices law. And during his career there, he's accused of rape, unprofessional conduct, as well as misdiagnosis of patients. Martin's accused of having sex with a patient in 1994 and threatens suicide. And Martin's psychotic episodes don't end there. In August of 2000, McNeill threatens to kill himself and wife Michele when she catches him looking at pornography. Shortly after this, in 2003, maybe in an attempt to distract from their problems, Martin and Michele decide to add to their family and adopt more children, 4 of whom will be from the Ukraine. Michele is now the mother of 8. Rachel, Vanessa, Alexis, Damien, Giselle, Elle, Sabrina, and Ada, who is actually the daughter of Vanessa McNeill, and turns out as Michele and Martin's granddaughter. But a distraction of adding children doesn't work, and Martin doesn't change, and their marriage doesn't improve. And in 2005, Martin threatens suicide when Michele catches him looking at pornography again. Even worse, during this time, Martin is having an affair with 2 women, Anna Osborne Walthall and Gypsy Willis. And in 2007, Michele confronts Martin about her suspicions of the affairs, but doesn't leave him. Martin's affair with Anna Osborne Walthall begins in 2005, and Anna tells her psychiatrist that she may be dating a serial killer. Martin had once told her that he had killed his brother in a bathtub, and also had tried to kill his mother. Those stories can't be confirmed, But Anna also tells her shrink that Martin had offered to kill her husband and confessed to writing an anonymous article about killing off his patients with painkillers. Martin's other affair with Gypsy Willis begins after he meets her online, and they start up a relationship. Despite this, Martin still shows undue influence over Michele, and again, perhaps as yet another chance to distract from their marital problems, Martin convinces Michele to have a facelift. He encourages the surgery, and she agrees, thinking it will help her marriage. Michele is hesitant to rush into surgery due to her high blood pressure, and she prefers to try to lose some weight before having the surgery, but Martin is insistent. She needs to have the surgery immediately. The planned surgery marches along in April of 2007, and Martin presses his medical experience into use when he convinces Michele's doctor to prescribe additional heavy medications for Michele post-surgery, namely Valium and Percocet. Michele's doctor who prescribed these pills later admits that he usually does not prescribe Valium or Percocet for any of his patients. The surgery occurs and Michele spends the night in the hospital. She's sent home and the very next morning is found unresponsive by her daughter Alexis. Martin informs her that he most likely over-medicated Michele, so from that point on, Alexis takes over dispensing the medicine. Just 2 days later, Michele tells Alexis, "If anything happens to me, make sure it wasn't your dad." Unfortunately, Alexis is attending medical school and needs to return there on April the 10th. By this point, she believes her mother is on the road to recovery and seems to be doing well. It's now April 11th, 2007. Michele and Alexis speak on the phone that morning at 8:44 a.m. Michele seems fine. Then at 9:10 a.m., Martin calls Alexis at medical school and asks her to check in on her mother, saying she wasn't doing well and wouldn't get out of bed. Martin is seen that day at a local safety fair event at 11 a.m. He makes absolutely sure to have an attending photographer get a picture of him at the event and seems in a rush to leave. He picks up his granddaughter Ada from school at 11:35 a.m. and they arrive home shortly after. Once home, Ada finds Michele face down in a bathtub full of water in the master bedroom of the home. Before calling 911, Martin orders his son Damien to dispose of all of Michele's medications. Michele McNeill is dead at the age of 50. Her autopsy reveals her cause of death to be from cardiovascular disease, and her death is ruled accidental and from natural causes. But Martin and Michele's children are not satisfied, and they question the results of the autopsy specifically as they know Michele was taking quite a bit of medication. Michele's sister begs the Utah governor and the Utah County's attorney's office to take another look at the case. The chief medical examiner does take another look and finds that although no one of the medications that Michele is on by itself is at a toxic level, the combination of all those medications together could have led to sedation and heart complications. In other words, the medications that Martin added to Michele's post-surgery regimen probably killed her. The cause of death is changed to undetermined, and it's noted in the report that Michele would not likely have been able to administer all of the medications to herself. On the 14th of April, Michele's funeral is held, and Martin takes time to speak at it, but barely mentions Michele during his speech. People do take notice of a woman at the funeral, one that very few of them know. Gypsy Willis is attending. In fact, Martin and Gypsy had shared 15 text messages the very day that Michele had been found dead. Just 3 days later, Martin asked his daughter Rachel to go to Mount Tippanako's temple with him to help him pray about hiring a nanny. And there, at the 49th temple of the Church of Latter-day Saints, emerges Martin's miracle, Gypsy Willis. In what Rachel later called an obviously scripted moment, Gypsy approaches Martin and Rachel at the temple site. Soon Gypsy is the nanny, and just a few weeks later, She has moved into the McNeill home, but the McNeill children are having none of it. Martin tells a friend that even though he's a good father, he can't have the children controlling his life, and he needs a nanny. Gypsy, the new nanny, doesn't clean, doesn't cook, and doesn't take care of the children. In fact, she spends most of her time in Martin McNeill's room. In June, police are called as Martin kicks out his daughters Rachel and Alexis for daring to ask what the nanny's actual role in the house is. Shortly after, Martin changes his will to leave each of his children just $1 each. And everything else? You guessed it. It was left to Gypsy. Martin's behavior up until now has been reprehensible, but since he's gotten away with everything from fake transcripts to murder to Medicaid fraud, why change? In July, daughter Giselle returns to her native Ukraine for the summer, and Martin immediately goes about trying to steal her identity for his own use. In September, a police report is filed alleging Martin fondled one of his sleeping daughters. Martin is finally fired from his position at the Department of Health and Human Services in September. And in November, Gypsy Willis brings a domestic violence complaint against Martin, although she later drops it. And then finally, Martin's luck runs out. In January of 2009, Martin is indicted for attempting to steal daughter Giselle's identity, as well as altering Gypsy's identity in order to open up bank accounts in her name. Soon after, Gypsy is also indicted, and both are sentenced to jail terms. But unlike Michele, who seemingly stuck with Martin through thick and thin, Gypsy will not do so. She testifies against Martin in order to obtain a reduced sentence, and things are about to go from bad to worse for Martin. In January of 2010, Martin's son Damien, the one who he ordered to dispose of Michele's medication, commits suicide by overdosing on his very own prescription drugs. In October, Michele's autopsy result has the cause of death changed to drug toxicity. Gypsy and Martin end their prison sentences and also their relationship. And then, in 2012, the Utah County Attorney's Office charges Martin with murdering his wife in 2007. As the trial ends, after only 11 hours of deliberation, jurors find Martin guilty of murder and obstruction of justice for making Michele's murder seem accidental. You see, what Michele gave Martin, a woman who would stick with him through anything, was something he took for granted. He likely assumed all women would be as obedient and forgiving as Michele. But Gypsy turned on Martin the first time she was squeezed by law enforcement. Martin's daughter stood up to him and wouldn't forgive him for what he had done to their mother. Michele's sister was persistent in having her case heard and seeking justice for Michele. In 2013, only a month after the conviction, Martin attempts suicide by cutting himself with a razor blade. Roughly 2 years later, McNeill kills himself using a hose and a gas line outside one of the prison's greenhouses. At 60 years of age, Martin McNeill is dead. His trail of crimes, abuse, and murder have come to an end. Thanks for watching, and thanks for sharing the journey.